It's the kind of film we're getting out of California, and I saw like 5 people on a couch doing it.
Doing it what?
Having sex.
How did you get into the dirty film business?
The dirty film business. Well, originally I was a filmmaker.
Well, that's a good way to start.
And it's very difficult to raise money as a filmmaker, to make films.
Yeah.
So some people approached me and said, this is the kind of film we're getting out of California, and I saw like 5 people on a couch doing it.
Doing it what?
Having sex.
Having sex.
Doing things to each other, dirty things. And it was like real trash. And I said, like, wow, I said, you can shoot the same subject matter and make it a good film. So they said, well, we have $4,000, you know. I said, that's a lot of money to a filmmaker. So I made a feature film for $4,000 called A One-Day Wonder. And which you get about 6 sex scenes in a day.
That's more than I get.
More than I get too, but the camera, you know, sees all and knows all.
You call them one-day wonders.
They're called one-day wonders.
You've done several.
Yeah, right.
Mention some of them.
Let's see, there was Lady Zazu's daughter.
Madame Zenobia? No, Madame Zenobia.
Madame Zenobia was a week.
That's something
a week. Yeah, no, the one days were Zora Knows Best, Thrilling Drilling, Bridal Intrigue, The Deviates.
Am I right in thinking that some of the people who later on and to this very day were very big stars in the X-rated cinema perhaps made some of their first films for you? Fred Lincoln?
Fred Lincoln, who now is a big porn director. He was in my films.
As an actor?
As an actor and a fucky, as I guess you'd like to say that. Herb Stryker, who later became Harry Reams. Dolly Sharp, Tina Russell. Tina Russell. Yeah. Heaven knows, Ultramax.
Ultramax. But those were
Jamie Gillis.
Jamie Gillis, right.
Jamie Gillis, done quite a few.
And then you, besides the one-day wonders, you...
Then it expanded. I decided that for a few more dollars we can really do a great film in 3 days. So that was really big when you expanded from a $4,000 film to a $6,000 film. Then eventually we really got ego crazy and we said, hey, with this power of film and money and things, let's go for a whole week, you know. And then that was big. Epics, yeah. We took 6 days. We did a really big film,
There's a trilogy you've made that I think is more or less what you really wanted to say.
Yeah, well, as you know...
Erotic cinema. Tell us about that trilogy.
Yeah, I call it the trilogy because it was the last 3 films I made. And, you know, since then I've gotten into still photography. But after doing a lot of these one-day wonders, you know, I got the feeling that there's a redundancy to watching the mechanics of sex and watching people come on each other, and I felt they weren't really capturing what sex was about to me, which is the emotion that goes into sex, the look in a woman's eyes when she's having an orgasm, not looking down at her bush or something, or looking at some guy's excruciating agony pleasure, you know, when he's coming. So
I've noticed about your films, that many of them dwell on the facial expressions of the characters.
Well, that's what we call the trilogy. After I got out of these one-day wonders, I said, wait, there's something more that we should see about this whole sex act than just the old in and out. So the last 3 films I did, I really attempted to capture the choreography of sex, which is the motion and the things that people do with their bodies, not just, you know, in and out or back and forth, you know. So I got into really how one would have sex to music, more or less, you know, and how music can abet the actions of the sex act. So combination of choreography and facial expressions that really, really showed the real truth of what people were feeling. Voyeur, but what I like to see is what somebody else is feeling that I can't experience being outside their energy. So what I'm peeping in on really isn't just what's doing it below the belt, you know. It's like I show a little bit of that, but I showed mostly, you know, I went in on the face to see what does it look like while you're having an orgasm.
This is the Steve Kraus, Ed Seeman interview, counting down 4, 3, 2, one.
Now those were the three films.
There was The Healers, in which I had this philosophy that sex heals, that it's really good for you. And it was a kind of a comedy that practiced a kind of a Reiki and healing through sex, you know. And then there was Madame Zenobia, which again explored orgasm in a woman who lost her husband and had to keep masturbating to his spirituality, you know, and couldn't have sex here on earth because of this devotion and this need to tie sex in with love, which was very counter porn, you know, that you had to have love to have good sex. Well, here again, I was searching for facial orgasms. I was searching for people who really felt what they were doing, and I traveled both through Florida and the Bahamas, which were the locations we shot on, at you know, and found people who were willing and believed in the project and believed in what we were trying to say.
They weren't actors and actresses.
They weren't actors and they were not porn stars, but they agreed to let me shoot them having real sex if I promised not to shoot their genitals. These films played very well in Europe and Canada, but again, were not great giant porn successes.
A prophet without honor in his own country, as they say.
Well, it was worth it, though. It was worth it because you felt you were really, you know, communicating and getting a message out. Shooting off of a tripod, the way we're doing today, kind of limits the dimension of voyeurism that one has when viewing a sex scene. Because it is, I'm using the word voyeur instead of photographer. I mean, it goes without saying that we're photographers, but I think what a photographer is, who's doing his work well, is trying to see for the people he's shooting. You know, he's representing a lot of people out there that want to see something, and he's going to show him. It's almost like shooting the other side of the moon. It's a part of life that he hasn't had a chance to see, and hasn't had a chance to see through my eyes. So what I like to do is have a handheld camera, not shaky, but very well choreographed to the music, and so then I can sneak around and look at anything I feel like looking at, just like somebody who was watching the sex act would really like to do. So I will travel around, I will climb, I will look for angles. As soon as they block a certain thing I want to see, I will creep around. And that handheld camera makes me and the film unified, as my emotions and my curiosity is guiding what I shoot. I'm not pinned down to the tripod. And it allows for nice motions and a chance to change angles and travel from faces to crotches to different parts, you know.
I think another distinguishing characteristics of your films is that, unlike many movie makers, instead of composing in a vertical and horizontal manner, you do it diagonal.
Right, yeah.
Why is that?
Well, first of all, I'm greedy and I'm not seeing enough in the camera when I shoot vertically. And I know that if I tilt my camera, I can almost see twice as much. If I just shot you straight on, you know, I'm limited. Also, I don't like voids in the camera. I almost feel like these holes have to be filled up, you should pardon the pun. So, by angling it, I have a way of immersing the rectangle of the screen with a lot more action, a lot more figure. And also, it adds energy. Diagonals add energy. And vertical, horizontal is very, very calm. It's like Mondrian created this vertical, horizontal imagery that gave people a real good sense of order against chaos. Angles, I feel, bring chaos back, bring emotions back, bring kineticism back. Horizontals and verticals, again, leave too much space, and that's my rational reason. Other than that, I just like doing something a little different. I get very bored, you know, looking at pictures that are always perpendicular to the frames of the screen. Well, basically, there was a point when I found that the kind of sex films I was making were missing the commercial audience. They were catching, you know, perhaps lovers of sex and emotion and eroticism, but it really wasn't delivering to the porn crowd what the porn crowd needed. And so I found that my films became more controversial than commercial. And so When that happens, the backers don't come running to your door anymore. So I decided to use the same curiosity and talent and convert to still photography instead of cinematography. Good actors that are willing to have sex on screen are very rare, you know, and unfortunately people are still casting the cliche blonde from California look, and the men all have to look like, you know, certain things. And I'd like to believe that there's room for a woman that could really, you know, convey a hot sex act that would be far greater than some very plastic blonde who just looks like a dish but doesn't have the emotion.
Do you think X-rated films have changed in the last, let's say, 15 years? Or which way do you think they're going?
I think they've improved technically. In other words, I think their willingness to go to 35 millimeter from 16, and now they're going to video to get a lot of clarity, and you know, and I think they're better lit and better directed. I think there's a lot better work on being done on them than when they started with a lot of disrespect. But I think the problem is it hasn't gone far enough, because they still disrespected enough not to put the kind of money in to the budget that would allow better people taking more time to create a better film. I think thanks to a lot of us, you know, including Al Goldstein, Midnight Blue, yourself, I think it's improved. I think we've been part of the sexual revolution. And I like to call it the sexual evolution, because I don't think we're really revolting against anything other than evolving into a world that wants to be informed about all subjects. And I always felt that sex is the only thing on earth you're supposed to do well but are not allowed to see. You know, you'd never dare play golf or tennis without either taking a lesson or watching an expert do it. But yet we're supposed to be great lovers, you know, and yet we're never supposed to see any of the great lovers do it. So I would wish that when you really cast the sex film, you found like a great talent in India that was, you know, knew how to bite ears better than anybody or something like that. Why not, you know, find heroes to worship in the sex business that will be good idols for people to learn from? And just to continue, because I'm very heavy on this subject, you can't teach your mate. It's very awkward in the middle of a sex act to say, this is how you should do it. And I think the only way to learn sex to an art form degree, not to a primitive instinctive degree, is to treat it like any other art form. You either go to school for it, or you study it, or you see great people perform it and you imitate them. Shouldn't be considered better just because it had a story, you know. So they don't look to sex films to be in any way the equivalent of a real movie. But I wish it could go beyond that, where the subject matter then was not just part of the filmmaker's experience, but you started to think of who really gave a better performance. Not an acting performance, because they're never going to be really, you know, compared to Dustin Hoffman or Al Pacino. But how about a great sexual performance? How about somebody winning an award? Not as they give them out now for acting, but for the greatest blowjob. You know, who gives the greatest blowjob in America? And why isn't she a star? And why shouldn't anybody want to see her do it to learn her finesse and her talent and her, that's
some of the erotic film award ceremonies do have that.
Do they give it for sex though, or they just give it for star of the movie?
No, they do give it for best lover.
Best lover? Who won the best male lover award last year?
No, not best male lover, but there are categories like best blowjob.
Oh yeah, but
maybe you're right that it's
blowjobs, you know,
viewing aspect than from the.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody were the best lover, then they say, hey, teach us. You know, why are we so afraid to learn? Why are our egos always up to that? We have to be naturally great lovers. I have felt very frustrated that a lot of what I wanted to communicate, you know, didn't get out to the people I wanted to reach. I mean, I reached people in Europe and Canada, but not enough in America, really, because the porn houses didn't play it and the regular theaters wouldn't show it. So I've taken away the stories, and I've put together 23 sex scenes that I've photographed and have made like kind of an anthology of all all the, not all, but most of the sex scenes that I have been talking about, and hopefully we're going to make it available to Midnight Blue audiences as well as mail order and video stores.
So it'll be a video cassette, in video cassette form.
Yeah, we're going to just strip away all the extraneous story, content, etc., and get into the real art form, which is having sex to music and looking at emotions and choreography and what people want to really see that I don't think they're seeing in the average sex film.
Ed, I wish you the best of luck with your project. I look forward to seeing the tape myself. And thank you very much for all the wonderful work you've done over the years, and thank you for being on our show.
I appreciate your inviting me, and I appreciate recognition in any degree. And it's good that somebody out there is noticing that I'm doing a little something different with the subject matter, and I hope to, as I say, eventually share it with everybody. But thanks very much for inviting me, giving me this opportunity.
Wonderful. This is Steve Kraus from Midnight Blue saying good night and good sex.